Now, the government shutdown over Donald Trump's wall may end up leading to the eviction of hundreds or thousands of people. Now, this is according to an article by NBC News. Federal contracts with private landlords who own about 1,150 government-funded properties have already expired due to their shutdown, and another 500 could expire this month, and an additional 550 in February if the government remains shut down. So basically, what I'm saying is that these contracts, if the federal government does not have a contract with these funded properties, well, then they're not going to actually be funding these properties, which are subsidized housing, which a lot of low-income people need to be able to pay their rent. They need those government subsidies. So a lot of these low-income people, and yes, a lot of white people on Section 8 subsidized housing will lose their homes if Trump doesn't end the shutdown fairly soon, because those properties will literally end up running out of money. Now, it hasn't quite happened yet. The Department of Housing and Urban Development, which is overseen by Secretary Ben Carson, has told landlords participating in the Section 8 program that they can use their cash reserves, which are typically required by mortgage lenders to cover any shortfalls. But that will not last forever. Now, normally what happens when there's a government shutdown, because there has been quite a few, I think there was actually 3 last year, what happens when it shuts down is that HUD, when the government reopens, HUD reimburses owners, right, in order to prevent evictions. However, HUD under Carson has been dragging their feet. Now, they've been doing so because, again, under Carson, there have been significant cuts in the program. And because of all those cuts and because of the workload, it turns out that a lot of those departments, or a lot of those, I should say, contracts have not been renewed by the department. So, meaning there will be no reimbursements, there will be no money until they sign those contracts. And of course, that seems to be up to Ben Carson at this point, who has shown that he has basically been asleep on the job. Now, Lori Hoffman, Federal Policy Director for the National Housing Trust, which owns Section 8 properties, said of the situation, quote, "It's a mess." She said, "The pain is coming a lot earlier than we thought." Well, that's not a surprise. Hoffman also told NBC News that HUD officials had previously assured her organization that contracts for December and January would be renewed. However, they have not been renewed, which means those people that are living in those units are in serious danger of being evicted because they just don't have enough money. Now, she said on that, quote, "It's confusing to me why HUD wouldn't have prioritized that and assigned staff to make sure that this wouldn't happen. It's a huge number of contracts and properties and residents." Well, look, for me, it's not confusing at all. Ben Carson was put there for one reason and one reason alone, not to effectively run the agency. He was there to dismantle the agency, to make sure that people did not get the help that they deserve. Look, again, they made massive cuts to a lot of these programs, made massive cuts to the staff. So when there's an emergency like this, they're not going to have enough staff to make sure that these contracts are renewed, because they ultimately don't want government help going to regular people, going to low-income people. That's the problem. So now what happens? Well, Raw Story notes that landlords with limited reserves have a couple of options. For one, they could delay critical repairs. They could take out additional financing, or raise rents or evict tenants, especially if the shutdown continues. Now, of course, if they raise their rents, well, that's going to be very disastrous for low-income families. And if they evict tenants, obviously, it's going to be even more disastrous. So here you have a situation where you have people that are going to lose their homes. Now, a department spokesman did say that landlords with unexpired Section 8 contracts should continue to receive payments this month and next month. However, as I mentioned before, we've got a lot of properties that don't have these contracts. Now, affordable housing real estate companies are already reporting other problems with contracts that remain in place until February. So again, if this is not resolved soon, people are going to lose their homes, which again, let me point out some of the irony here on this, right? Most of the poor people getting assistance in this country are white. Now, look, here's the thing about that. So the reason that I point that out is important because there is a stereotype that the people that are receiving government assistance, well, they're black. Oh, well, we don't care about those guys. But no, there's a lot of poor white people. And guess what? A lot of poor white people voted for Donald Trump. Now, that's, again, there's some irony here. Now, again, pointing that out, I don't want these people to suffer because I don't agree with their political votes. That I don't agree with their political ideology. But again, there's nothing wrong with pointing out the irony here, right? I don't want them losing their homes. I don't want them losing their food stamps. And again, that is another thing that will also be impacted. Some 38 million people are set to lose their food stamp benefits if this shutdown continues. Hey, you know who's not affected, by the way? Congressmen. Congressmen will continue to get paid. But right now, there's over 800,000 workers, some who are working without pay and others who are furloughed that are, again, they're not getting paid. And now you're going to have people on Section 8 housing, government subsidized housing, and also people who are receiving food stamps that are going to end up losing all of those things. And I think that's a disaster. I'm not monstrous like the right wing. Okay, I don't want people to lose those benefits. I don't want there to be a government shutdown, but at the same time, I also think that we should not, under any circumstance, pay for that stupid wall. So I just want to point out, though, that I do find it ironic that there are people out there that, look, really want to destroy government, right? That are low income and benefiting from government programs. And now they're going to get to find out what it's really like to be without government. Hey guys, hopefully you enjoyed that free video. Now I'm going to have to ask you a favor. Between the demonetization and the YouTube algorithm messing around with view counts, etc., we're having a hard time adjusting to the new YouTube reality, which is where you guys come in. See, we have a Patreon, patreon.com/TYTNation, set up to help us rely on you guys, the viewers, instead of big corporate ads. Look, you know the show. You know I'm not in favor of big corporations anyway. So help us transition away from relying on the ad model to pay the bills and sign up to be a patron, patreon.com/TYTNation. That goes a long way to help us keep the lights on. And you guys will know that you're supporting independent progressive media.